Welcome to Inside the Canopy Files, a production of Canopy Realtors Association in Charlotte, North Carolina. In this special edition of Inside the Canopy Files, we take you behind the scenes for a one-on-one interview between Tiffany Johannes, the 2023 President of Canopy Realtors Association and Canopy MLS, and Joe Rand. Joe was the keynote speaker at the 2023 Realtor Expo held June 1st at the Charlotte Convention Center. Here's your host, Tiffany Johannes.
And welcome from the 2023 Realtor Expo, where we are recording a special edition of Inside the Canopy Files. I'm Tiffany Johannes, your 2023 Canopy Realtor Association and Canopy MLS President, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to talk with our keynote speaker and education session presenters, who are among the biggest names and influencers in real estate education and the industry marketing. We're recording this special podcast in case you are not among the more than 1,000 realtors and real estate professionals able to join us at the Charlotte Convention Center for a day of advancement, education, and entertainment. Joining me now is our keynote speaker, Joe Rand. Joe is the Chief Creative Officer for Howard Hanna Rand Realty, one of the largest companies in the New York's tri-state region with over 25 offices, 1,200 agents, and closing over $3 billion in real estate transactions in 2022. He is also a nationally recognized speaker and educator and the author of 2 books on the real estate industry, Disruptors, Discounters, and the Doubters in 2018, and How to Be a Great Real Estate Agent in 2019. In 2018, Rand was honored by Riz Media with one of the inaugural Industry Newsmaker Awards and recognized by Inman News as one of the top 100 real estate influencers. And in 2019 was recognized in the Real Estate Almanac from T360 Advisors and the Swanepoel Power 200 as one of the most powerful people in real estate. Welcome, Joe, and we're so happy to have you as our keynote speaker today. I know that our Expo attendees are looking forward to your presentation on how agents fight back, creating amazing experiences for your clients in the changing real estate market. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you here today. So as we get started, what would you say our attendees can expect to hear today?
Well, the foundational concept that I always talk about that kind of animates everything I do in education and training is trying to help people become better at their jobs. It's very simple. That I think that the real problem at the core of this industry, at the center of this industry, is the idea that we are not articulating our value proposition. We're not adapting our value proposition to the changing needs of our clients. I got my start in real estate teaching, 25 years ago when I started with my real estate company up in New York. And I was doing the training. And so, to start, I kind of did the training that was out there and kind of taught them how to do the hardcore prospecting and all the things that kind of was the training motif or the training modus of the time. And still to this day, I think is still pretty prominent. And what I found was that it wasn't working. And so I tried to figure out what would work. And I mean, it wouldn't work in the sense that people wouldn't do it. Like you say to people, hey, if you just do 4 hours of cold calling every day, you'll get leads, which is true, except that no one can live on that regimen. They do it for 15 minutes, and they put it away. They take the scripts and they put them in a drawer and they're never to be seen again. And that wouldn't work for me because I don't make money selling the scripts. I don't make money selling tapes. I don't make money selling coaching. The only way I make money as a broker is when agents sell homes and they make money, and then they make money, the broker makes money. So I had to find something that actually works. So what I did was let me look and see what the best agents in our company are doing. And you know what I found they had in common? They were all very different. Some of them were engineering types. Some of them were charismatic types. Some of them they looked different ages. The thing they had in common was very simple. They were great at the job of helping people buy and sell homes. And I said, that's the key. A great realtor makes money. A great doctor makes money. A great plumber makes money. A great electrician makes money. If you're great at your job, all sorts of good things happen. And that's what I'll be talking about today, of how can we become better at our jobs.
That's incredible, because a lot of realtors do have and come from a lot of different backgrounds, and they approach it in a lot of different ways. And as we see how realtors are working today, we see disruptors on the horizon and here today trying to replace them entirely. How would you say they should best fight back?
I think the way to fight back is to recognize that the disruptors are coming at us because they say that realtors are overpaid for the work they do, and that the real estate transaction takes too long. The real estate transaction taking too long and being too frustrating and too difficult is what has completely motivated the iBuyer phenomenon, is the idea that, hey, I don't have to deal with realtors. I don't have to deal with people coming through my house. I can sell even at a discount. And the iBuyers, I think, are a little bit they've been a big challenge. I think that it's come to realize that it's going to be a relatively small part of the market. It's the part of the market of people that will trade convenience for money. The same way that, I'm staying in a hotel room right now, and last night if I wanted gummy bears, I could have gone to my little drawer where the gummy bears were $12 for a little packet, or I could have gone outside, walked down the block, gone to a drugstore and gotten a bigger bag for $4. But sometimes you take the convenience and you take the $12 bag of gummy bears, and sometimes you take the walk, and that's, I think, to some extent, the iBuyers have found their little niche. But the point is, we left ourselves open for it because we haven't done enough to improve the transaction. We haven't done enough to make it easier to buy a house. We haven't done enough to give better experiences to the consumers we work with. And so we need to do that. That's the key to fighting off disruption. Provide better experiences for consumers. Providing
better experiences to the consumers means coming with more tools in our tool bag. Also looking at other ways to implement strategies to overcome our challenges. What are some of the things that you think we need to implement to overcome those strategies?
I think it starts with really recognizing what our value proposition is. I think too many agents still have this ancestral idea that the traditional value proposition that realtors had was that they were gatekeepers. They held the information, right? If you wanted to find out what homes were for sale in Charlotte, you had to go to a realtor because they had all the homes. I don't know if back in the day in New York, we had them in shoe boxes. There were index cards that you kept in shoe boxes. Then there were books, and you had the books. And the only people that got the books were members of the MLS. So if you wanted to buy a house, you had to come to the people that had the books. Well, now almost 30 years ago, the real estate industry made a decision to take all that inventory, put it online, make it available for everybody. One of the great consumer-oriented decisions that we ever made. It wasn't for necessarily our benefit that we did it, but the consumer really benefited from being able to see all the inventory. But it did eliminate one of our value propositions, which was to be the gatekeeper of information. And there's still people that talk about, that what we do is we advertise your home, we put it in every website, and we put it on Zillow, we put it on Truly, we put it on Realtor.com, we put it on Homes.com. And that's something that maybe used to be a differentiator because you needed to have the right technology to be able to disseminate listings into the stream of commerce. But now it's all handled. I'm sure Canopy handles that for every agent. So it's not a differentiator from broker to broker. So we have to adapt to the fact that our value proposition is different. And the value proposition has to recognize what do we actually do and what should we be doing better for clients. And I'll just give you an example of something that we don't talk about enough in our value prop, and that would be transaction management. Transaction management is one of the most important things we do. People think that, a buyer agent, all they're doing is driving around and they walk into the house and they show you where the kitchen is, and then you make an offer and they present the offer and then it's done. But you and I both know that it's when the contract gets signed that the hardest work of the transaction starts to take place, that you have to keep that deal together. And that's a big deal, but it's not something agents talk about. They're how good they are at keeping deals together. And it doesn't come up in the listing presentation, but it's one of the most important things we do, because if you don't keep the deal together, it doesn't close, you don't make money, the seller doesn't sell their house, the buyer doesn't buy the house, and you've wasted a lot of time and a lot of energy and probably a lot of money as well. So that's part of our value prop. We don't talk about it.
That is so true. As a realtor, we're expert advisors. We're navigating the path for our clients, whether it's buyers or sellers, and making sure that they have the best possible experience. And we don't communicate. I looked at it and I think I have 252 steps that I take from the time I start to the time I finish. I actually share that with my clients. There are other things that we should do to wow our clients. What are some of the things that you think would be important as we start showing our value proposition?
To wow the clients, I think there's ways to manufacture that. And what I always tell agents to do is start with the foundational idea that you're going to create processes that articulate your best practices. To give you an example, and what you want to do is you want to create processes that by their nature, prevent errors and drive better experiences by design. So for example, Starbucks, company everybody's familiar with. Starbucks has a process whereby at regular intervals, the baristas are supposed to go to the station where you have the creamer and you have the sugar and everything like that. And they're supposed to replace all the creamers, all the low fat and whatever they have, almond milk, whatever they have out there. They're supposed to replace it. They don't say, oh, there's enough in here for now. No, they just take all of them off, replace them with all full ones. Then they take the ones that are half empty or 2/3 empty or 1/3 empty, and they refill those and they put those in the fridge. So at any given interval, there's fully stocked, and they clean it up. They put the sugars back in the thing. The idea is that you never get your coffee at Starbucks, and you never go into where to get your sugar, to get your cream, and it's out. You never have that problem, and because it's always being refilled. It's the equivalent of if you make your haircut appointments for every month, your hair never gets too shaggy. Because you're cutting it before it gets shaggy, because you're setting up the process to get it done. How do you create systems that prevent problems from taking place? And I'll just give you an example of a system that we followed in my company that made a big difference that we used to have, which I think most companies still have, is there's a lot of documents that have to be signed to get your listing on the market, right? And all those documents, we had different federal forms, state forms, MLS forms, our own forms, and they were always different sizes. Some of them were legal size, some of them were regular size, some of them were pressed down hard because there's 3 copies and things like that. This is back 15 years ago. I mean, now, e-signatures has obviated a lot of this, but back then, everything was done on hard copy. And the folder would be stacked with documents that very easily they'd fall out. Very easy for someone to go and say, oh, I need a listing agreement. They'd pull it out of the existing folder. So when someone else takes the folder and brings it to the seller and they're ready to sign, there's no listing agreement there because we got stolen out of the folder. So what we said was, let's make a better experience for the consumer and eliminate errors, that there's no problem. So we create a packet, and every document is in a bound packet. And the front of the packet is the table of contents, and the back of the pocket's a checklist. So they check off on the back that you've done everything. And inside the packet are all the forms that have to be signed. And if they need to be signed, they're in duplicate, perforated, you take it with you. Non-perforated, the book stays with the client, along with all the disclosures. So we eliminated complaints that the seller never got a particular form because it was in the packet. We eliminated the problem of you couldn't read the signatures or the things that are on the press hard 3 times. And it was a very simple fix. I mean, it cost a little bit of money because printing up the packets was more expensive than the individual forms, but it made for a better experience for the consumers and eliminated errors. And there are things that every agent can sit down and figure out about their business that would do the same thing. Create protocols that identify best practices like the Starbucks best practice and say, how do I eliminate errors in my business on a day-to-day basis?
That is so important. As agents and realtors out there, we've got to define our processes, our systems, our tools, create templates, and e-signatures, have checklists to make sure that we're following the same process day in and day out, and making sure that our clients understand we do a lot more than open doors.
You're right. You mentioned consistency. That's one of the reasons you have these checklists, is because you do the same thing every time. That's part of the giving a great experience that agents sometimes, I'm a big checklist person. Everything I do is on checklists, okay? I flew here. I had a checklist for all the things I had to bring with me. I have a checklist for when I leave a hotel room that I check, let's check here, do this, do that to make sure you don't leave your chargers in, don't make sure. I make a checklist when I go on vacation, all those things. I'm terrible. I'm just like the worst to live with. Like everything's on a checklist. But the idea is that I don't want to have to think about it. The idea is that you don't have to rethink what you're supposed to do when you go on a trip. It's right there on the list. And if you come up with something that's better, you add it to the list, and now it becomes the best practice. And that's what I don't think agents do enough of. Agents come back from taking a listing and they have 50 things they have to do, but they don't have them on a list. So they kind of have to think in there, and then they're going to always miss something. And they don't know that they missed it, but they forgot to order the sign because they don't have a checklist that says order the sign. They forget, the sign never gets ordered. They get a call from a client a week later. Hey, where's my sign? And they're like, oh, they don't know. They didn't drive by the house every day. They don't know the sign's not up yet. That's a bad experience for the consumer, and it's something that could have been avoided with a simple checklist. Simple stuff. There's
so many things that we can do that are very simple, very straightforward, very easy to create templates, to create checklists, to make sure we're wowing the clients, providing that delightful experience. And so, Joe, what would you say that agents need to do when they first meet their clients and are talking to them about setting expectations and really dialing in what they're going to do for them in the transaction?
The first piece of advice I always give agents that are going in to meet with a client for the first time is to talk less and listen more. Stop talking. Don't think of the listing meeting, that initial meeting with a client, whether it's a buyer or a seller, but let's talk about sellers because it's a more common concept. We think of it as a listing presentation. It's a presentation. We're doing a show. We've got stuff we're going to talk. We're going to tell them about our 29-point marketing plan, and we're going to try to impress them because we're trying to pitch them on hiring us. And nobody else does that. That's not the way that other service professionals introduce themselves to a client. You don't go meet with a plumber and the plumber then tells you about all the different successful plumbing deals that they've done. Or you don't go to a doctor and the doctor lays out, here's all the patients that I've healed and here's how I healed them. Like, they don't do that. That's something that it's something that salespeople do that service professionals don't. And one of the things I really want to try to convince agents is that a lot of their job is as a service professional. So you go and you start asking questions, because how do you know what the client wants, what the client's expectations are? You learn that by asking them questions and listening to the answers. Be authentically interested. And the whole point about doing what I call a consultative listing presentation is that it's much easier. It's very hard to go in and you have to be on and you got to have the scripts right and you have to do this, you have to do that. And that's a lot of pressure on you. It's much easier to sit down with somebody and say, so tell me, what do you like living about here? What do you like about living in this house? What made you buy it? Why are you moving? When do you have to be out? What are you looking for? What are you most afraid of in selling your home? What are you most concerned about? What do you think is the best selling feature of the house? Just keep asking them questions. People like it when you ask them questions. They like to talk, particularly about themselves. And these are nervous people. They're anxious about doing this. They'll feel better. And the more they talk to you, the more they confide in you, the more trust they build in you, just by virtue of the fact that they're telling you stuff that is very personal to them. And the more personal stuff they tell, the more connected they become to you.
That is so true. Being your authentic self, going in and really listening to what your client or prospective client has to say. They buy or sell once every 7 years, and in some cases every 20 years.
Yeah.
They are nervous. They don't know what to expect. And you're there to find out what's important to them, what their why is, how they got there to start with. And the more they share with you, the more comfortable they feel with you.
Yeah.
And so that makes a difference.
And you're not going to find that out by talking. You're not going to find that out by yapping about your testimonials and things like that. Now, there is a point in the listing consultation where you do have to talk about the services you provide. But if you do that after you've spent the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever, finding out what's important to them, well, then you can frame all your services based on what they said was important. Like, you said earlier that one of the most important things to you was to make sure that we minimize the disruption to your life because you've got kids and whatnot in the house. So here's what we're going to do about the showing schedule. We're going to set up the showing schedule. I'm going to make sure that whatever you want to say. But the point is, you listen to what they have to say, and then all the things that you're going to do for them get focused on addressing their needs that they've expressed and they've stated. It's in everything in life. And this is the core, the animating principle of the whole philosophy that I have, is that you need to focus on what other people need. You need to focus on what your client needs. In the real estate industry, we tend to focus a lot on what we need. We need a listing, we need a buyer, we need a commission, we need this, we need that. It's a very sales philosophy on that. And that's because the whole industry is built around sales. We have sales awards, we have sales conventions, that's how we get paid. And I understand that. And we have to train people to be good at sales. That's an important function of the job. But we also have to train them to be good at their job. And the core of being good at your job is saying, what does this person need? And let me find a creative way to help them with their need. That's what I'll be talking about today, is the idea of identify what people need and then figure out how to give it to them. That's what every service professional does. The first thing happens when you go into a doctor, they say, where does it hurt? You go to a lawyer, they say, how can I help you? What's the problem that you have? Every seller is different. We think they're the same. So we do a presentation that's the same presentation for every seller, but every one of them is different. So when we go in, we have to find out what makes them different. And here's the thing, asking questions about somebody is just as a fundamental piece of advice for people. If you're in a conversation with somebody, you have a mental clock in your head that stops you after talking for 30 to 40 seconds and then ask a question to get the other person talking. I mean, I know you're married, so you're not dating. I'm not dating, I'm married. But back when I was dating, and if you can think back to those days, like the worst kind of date was the person who spent the whole time talking about themselves. You know, you sit down with a guy and the guy's like, oh, let me tell you about my job and let me tell you about this, let me tell you about that. The best kind of date was the person that came in and said, so tell me about you, tell me about your job. What do you do? How long have you lived here? What brought you to Charlotte? You know, that kind of stuff. That's what impresses people. That's what they like. It's just a more engaging way to talk to people. And that's throughout the process. That's with everything. Your whole life should be about asking people questions and trying to figure out what they need and how you can help them. That's just a nice way to live your life.
That's a great way to live your life, and putting your needs aside and looking at the needs of others always brings more back in return to you. I've found that along the way. And as I talk to agents, and I work with agents every day in my firm about what they're doing, I'm always saying, hey, you need to be quiet and you need to listen. Don't talk too much. They don't want to hear you talking. If you go to a doctor's office, like you said, and the doctor's talking about himself and what's going on and not asking you questions, not finding out what's going on about you, how do you perceive that doctor? Are you going back?
Yeah.
And so you need to think about other professionals and how you want to be treated in that position and treat your clients the same way.
That's the focus. And you know, once you start orienting yourself in your business to think about what other people need, it really animates every part of what you do. So it's not just that initial appointment, but later on, as you start thinking of the services you're providing to people, you start saying, okay, what do my buyers need? What is it they need at this stage of the process? And you start coming up with creative solutions to problems. You start coming up with creative processes to address their needs. And that's what we've always been missing in this industry. We've kind of missed focusing on what a client needs. And I'll just give you an example, and it's in my books, and I think I'll mention it today, is that we knew that people back 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, needed to know what their home is worth. They were always curious what their home is worth. So we invented this concept of the free CMA, which we put on every business card and every email and every poster, every ad that we had was call me for a free CMA, which was really our way of saying, call me and I'll come give my listing presentation to you. Like, it wasn't call me for a free CMA and they call you on the phone and you're like, oh, where do you live? What do you have, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths? Okay, your place is probably worth about $375. No. We'd say, okay, well, when can I come by and take a look? And then you're going to give the whole listing presentation, right?
Right. I have to put my eyes on it. I need to take a look.
The free CMA was a come on, and people knew it was a come on. I mean, that's why you didn't really get many calls on it, because they knew that when they came in, you were going to go do your razzmatazz and your whole thing. And they didn't want that any more than, you know, when you go to Mexico and they say you can have a free stay at a hotel, it's because you have to sit through a 6-hour timeshare presentation. Time is money. If you're going to sit through the 6-hour timeshare presentation, you've earned that free night stay. So the free CMA was something that we took a need that we identified in clients and we tried to monetize it. And we tried to use them as opposed to thinking about servicing the need. So what happened? Zillow happened. Zillow came in and serviced the need and didn't charge you and didn't make you sit through a whole bunch. You just click a button and you find out how much your home is worth. Now, the Zestimate was always wrong. It wasn't a good answer, but at least they were addressing the need that you had in a way that was like addictive. And then once they figured out that they get all these eyeballs on their website, they figured out how to monetize it. They monetize it from pulling money out of our pockets. They were brilliant about the way they did it. But the reason Zillow developed was because we were not attentive to the needs of our clients. We were trying to use their needs to get ourselves business, as opposed to just making sure. I'll give you another example. Think about Angie's List, which is now called Angie. Angie built its business around the idea that people want to know who they should hire for doing their floors or doing their landscaping or doing their alarm installation. That used to be our thing. You know, you used to call your realtor. If you needed help with property management about, I need a plumber, let me call my realtor. They know all the best plumbers, which we do. The agents know the best people. They're better than Angie's List. But we didn't make money doing it. So it was never something we promoted as a service we provide. If we thought expansively about what our clients need and said, you know what, every one of my clients is going to be hiring, once they move into this house, they're going to be hiring, you know, plumbers and alarm installers, and they're going to be hiring, you know, landscapers. Let me give them a list, or let me at least let them know that if they need anybody to call me, and I'll provide them with somebody. And every agent I know in the business is happy to get that call. They're happy to get a call from somebody who says to them, hey, I'm thinking of putting in a new kitchen, and I want to know what I should do to maximize the value because we're probably going to sell in the next 5 years. Every agent I know will take that call, will actually go visit the house and give them ideas about what they should do with their kitchen. You're thinking of putting in a pool and you want to know how it would affect your property value? Every agent in the business I know is happy to answer that question, but we don't promote that as a service because we don't make any money on it. So we focus all our stuff on trying to generate leads that we can turn into money more directly. But the more that we establish relationships with our clients by answering their non-transactional needs, the more likely we are to get them to come to us when they have a transactional need. And that's how we build our business. That's what the best agents do. The best agents build their business because they provide great service during the transaction, and their clients know they can call them with anything, and they help them throughout the post-transaction period as well.
That creates a client for life.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got to do, that continual follow up and contact and loving on those clients that you have is going to create so much more value and put your name out there more often than it is buying leads on the internet.
Yeah. Listen, every successful agent I know, I said before, the foundational part of their business is that they're really good at their job. Because if you're not good at your job, if you're not great at your job, you're not getting a repeat and referral business no matter what. I don't care how many magnets you send them for the refrigerator. I don't care how many seeds you send them. It doesn't matter. If you don't do a great job on their deal, they're never going to refer their mother to you. Okay? But if you do a great job, then that's how you build up that business. And then the other thing is that these great agents, they establish these kinds of relationships, and they establish these trust relationships that bring people back and make them raving fans for them. And that's what we need to do in this business. We need to create more raving fans. We need to create more people who love what we do. And to bring it back to the beginning of the conversation, how do we fight off disruption? We get better at our jobs, and we provide better experiences, and we change the way people think about their real estate agents and the transaction that they go through. We make it a better transaction. We make it a better experience. And then when people, they're not going to want to get the expensive gummy bears in their hotel room. They're going to be willing to go through the experiences. It won't be as painful as they think it is.
That is so true. I look forward to hearing you this morning in your keynote. And thank you for your time today, Joe. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I would like to welcome our podcast sponsor, Les McGehee, President and Head Coach with Realto. Realto is a key partner of Canopy Real Estate Institute and provides the powerful platform that operates our Canopy campus, allowing Canopy to deliver the ultimate experience in the real estate education and lifelong learning. Thank you for being here, Les. We appreciate your sponsorship and your helping in creating Canopy Campus.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. It is a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to work with the Canopy team on developing this campus. What we provide associations across the nation, a lot of the associations have the same needs in common, yet they're also extremely unique, and Canopy is a really great example of that. Extremely unique in their drive and their goals, and they're doing just a beautiful job developing the campus with us.
We are appreciative of your partnership. And as we look at Canopy Campus, can you tell us a little bit of what's different with Canopy Campus compared to what we did before we had your partnership?
Absolutely. Yeah. My partner, Jonathan, my partner and co-founder of my business, Jonathan Murby, he and I were developing content for some of the large real estate brands. And it became a theme for us that we noticed that if there were maybe 10 things they were intending to do well, odds are they were doing a number of those well, yet there were a couple of things that were maybe robbing them of their results. And so we started working on ideas for, say, ecosystems for learning and production training. And we created a platform, and we did a pilot, and it went well. And we created a version 2, and we did a pilot, and that pilot finished in February of 2020. And that was the same week that we got the shelter-in-place order. And so we were fortunate that some of the associations that we worked with, starting with Austin Board of Realtors, as a matter of fact, said, we didn't know we were going to have so much urgency. Can you turn this on for us and develop the campus for us right now? And so we did, and now we're proud to have over 300,000 realtors on our campuses across the nation. And y'all are going to be really proud of the Canopy one. The team at Canopy that we collaborate with to make everything customized and the way that your members will react to it the best, they're doing a great job. We're going to be very proud of our success with Canopy. I would say with our learning platforms, with that education platform, we're kind of at war with with questions that sound like, where is which one has I didn't get can you send me we don't care for any of those. So we have developed a system that puts everything in one place and makes it easy for the realtor to attend their training, get benefits, get a certificate at the end if they like it. We're raising standards. We feel very strongly about the realtor entrepreneurial situation, and Canopy is a great partner for raising standards, that's for sure.
We have done a great job with it, and I know with your partnership that the sky's the limit with the opportunity.
That's absolutely true. We have the ability to put up just-in-time training as well as traditional training. We help the various association clients we have put out about 300 units of CE per month total. And Canopy is certainly offering a really robust set of not only CE courses, yet professional development and some other assets. We're very proud of the work with Canopy. Tiffany, we are very passionate and nerdy about realtor education. And we recognize that realtors are not only the largest trade industry in our nation, we believe they're also central to the American spirit of entrepreneurism. And they're certainly one of the most important economic indicators at any given time. So we take all of that really seriously, supporting realtor businesses and helping folks to be successful in their businesses and helping them to grow their businesses so they can bring people up behind them and share their results with people and go forward.
It sounds tremendous. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you help entrepreneurs, teams, brokerages, and other associations across the country from a coaching perspective. Tell us what the day in and day out or getting started on as a coaching client looks like for you.
Well, we do an analysis and we identify what's working great for the association or the client. And we're going to do our best to keep all the things that are working great for that individual and the strengths that are working great for them. Then we're also going to identify gaps, things that are maybe robbing them of some of their progress that could really help them to achieve their goals. And then the toolkit we draw from, we have a really extensive proprietary toolkit that we developed ourselves with some of the best experts in the nation as collaborators. Yet also, I would say the real strength of our program is that we stay at the front on cutting edge information that's coming out about businesses and systems and what the big companies are providing to the realtors and how to take advantage of that. Yet we also like the historic literature and the historic business beliefs that never changed. And we think that is where a lot of our power and success comes from, is embracing the business truths that will never change and embracing the business truths that are on the front edge and that we're having our current conversations about. Coming at it from both directions like that has helped us to create some really great collaborative successes with our clients.
That is great. When you come to the training tools and the coaching side of things, are you coaching more on training agents and training to be success, or holistically the whole entire approach of being a successful entrepreneur?
Really, that second description is excellent, Tiffany. We work on mindset and the ability of the individual to have everything that they need for success. So that holistic approach is where we're coming from. In the process of doing that, very often there's a piece of training that's missing. And so when we identify that, we'll take the individual and we'll make sure that they have access to that training, whether it's through us or through their parent brand or whatever the case may be. So the coach, Rialto coach, has three hats, and the hat that they wear most of the time is the coaching hat, and they're coaching behavior and mindset and energy and strength and motivation and understanding. That's what a coach does, is gets that great behavior. Occasionally they have to put on the consultancy hat and help the client figure out a system to change to or not, or how other folks do it, and we can give some role models that we can draw on or something like that. And occasionally there's a need for a teacher or a trainer, in which case we have our own online platform full of training programs. And so instead of taking valuable coaching time to do all the teaching and training, we can refer our clients to one of our courses. And then after they take the course, we debrief them on it. And we have our own proprietary courses, assessments. We're a small outfit. We keep less than 200 clients in our coaching program, and we have all master coaches with multiple certifications. And so that's kind of how we approach that.
Well, that sounds fascinating, and I know our listeners will want to check out Rialto and the opportunities for coaching and training. And I know the next time I take my continuing education, I look forward to diving into Canopy Campus and exploring all the opportunity that you guys have provided us.
Well, that's so kind of you to say so, Tiffany. I'll tell you something else. We feel like we have a special relationship with Canopy. So all of the forward-thinking Canopy agents that listen to your podcast, if anybody would like a free consultation call, we're your people. We are your cousins in education, and we expect to help your individuals and your teams and your brokerages. And it's absolutely fine to reach out to us and get a free consultancy call. You don't have to buy something to get something from your cousins over at Realtor Academy. We like to help, and we're here for the long haul with Canopy.
That sounds great. If someone did want to take you up on that, how would they do that?
We're on the internet at realtoacademy.com. Also, send me a note, because I like to treat everybody at Canopy really personally. That's Les at realtoacademy.com. Les with one S at realtoacademy.com.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Les. We really appreciate your sponsorship and making today's podcast possible. It really has been a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better and to learn about what Rialto offers and to really get ready to explore Canopy Campus as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be with y'all. Thank you.
Jonathan Wynn, welcome to the Inside the Canopy Files podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much.
First of all, tell us a little bit about who you are and what realty company you're representing.
Nice, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to share some thoughts. I'm actually a new agent. I'm rounding out my first year as a realtor. Got my license kind of mid-June of last year. And so I'm affiliated with Keller Williams Connected, which is Fort Mill based.
Fantastic. And talk about your experience here today at the Canopy Expo. It's
been awesome so far. The keynote speaker, Joe Rand, was incredible, really engaging, really interesting. I definitely had like a huge aha moment while listening to him, which was really awesome. And then the actual expo where they have, different vendors and resources, that's always a huge opportunity to, like, as realtors, because there's so many different parts of the puzzle. There's lenders and there's inspectors and there's builders and there's all kinds of people involved in the transaction that it's really helpful to kind of go around and actually meet and talk to people.
What do you think is one thing that you found really impactful that you've heard or seen or somebody that you've met here today?
All right. So this was my aha moment, and I'm like slightly hesitant to share it because I'm like, I want this to be my aha moment and no one else take this. But it was actually really cool. So Joe in his presentation talked about how often you'll hear realtors talk about first-time home buyers. Like there's first-time home buyer seminars, and like even myself, I've reflected over the past year of being a realtor, and I am realizing that I really love working with first-time home buyers. Like, I love feeling like I'm helping people through a process that is scary and intimidating. Well, he put up a screen that said fill in the blank. As realtors, we love working with first-time blank. And everyone in the room said, home buyers, like it's a thing. And he was like, why didn't you say first time sellers? And I was like, dang, whoa. Like that was my aha moment. And that was kind of his point, is like, there's a huge niche and untapped opportunity to really walk through people who have bought their first home, but perhaps they haven't ever sold their first home. And why aren't we doing education around that, or positioning ourselves as realtors as someone who really helps people sell their homes for the first time? And that was a huge moment for me of realization. That was really cool.
For the realtors who couldn't be here today, what would you say to them in terms of why they should be here next year?
I think as realtors, a lot of our business is relationships. So it's it's just people, whether it's our clients and relationships to clients or those connections of having, a lender that we really like to refer to and trust and so, being in a room full of other realtors who are associated with different agencies or different brokerages is really advantageous. I mean, we're working together. There's always someone on the other side of the deal represented by another agent. So for me, just to be in a room with other agents is great.
Fantastic, Jonathan. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Inside the Canopy Files, presented by Canopy Realtors Association in Charlotte, North Carolina. Connect with us online at carolinahome.com.